This is In the Groove with Peggy Anne Salz, and today the topic is AI because that's no surprise. It's a massive buzzword. Every show's about it, but we're going to look at it differently. We're going to take a different focus because it's not about the power of AI. I think it's more about the personality of AI because AI and bots are developing their own personalities. It could be a sea change in customer service, or it could be something much, much different. We'll find out because we're going to dive deep into this topic with Jim Cascade, CEO of Conversica. And first of all, Jim, great to have you here. And I guess you're thinking to yourself, boy, I knew it was coming, huh?
Well, it's definitely been historic in terms of this is the fastest growing tech in the history of tech. And I think the little soundbite there is I measure all sorts of different industries, transformations and kind of the disruptive forces. And what I kind of measure as a big enabling factor of, technology doing something disruptive is 25% of the US population adopts, right? Yeah. And when you think about 25% of the US, population adopting electricity, the mobile phone, the World Wide Web, and we look at AI, oh my God, everybody is engaged with it. If you just think of ChatGPT or Gemini or Meta AI, the amount of use now and common understanding is phenomenal.
Speaking of phenomenal, but I didn't want to use that as a pun or a transition, but I will in your case, Jim, because you have had a remarkable journey in tech. You've been steering companies to monumental growth and now, of course, at the forefront of an AI-driven conversational marketing engine. So you're one of few in the industry that can say, I'm positioned to discuss not only where AI marketing is today, but more importantly and excitingly, where it's headed. So, tell us about that journey, not just Conversica, but as I understand it, I think it was a little bit about a chance meeting with Google that kicked all of this off. Am I right?
It is. I came across the company in 2019 because the private equity investors asked me to help out. Just looking at the business, I got so excited. And I was on a walk here in Silicon Valley, kind of number of places you can go, Stanford Dish for those who know it. I was on a walk with a good friend of mine, and he was the CTO of Applied AI at Google in the CTO office. And his name was Ron, and Ron and I were just catching up. We'd known each other for over a decade. And of course, I was going to ask him, about this particular business, but also what's going on, what is happening in the industry. And that's when I became aware, obviously a lot of folks in the industry were deep into this well before that walk. But for me, it was the first time to appreciate that there was a lot in the making. And I learned of Palm, which is now Gemini, and its history. And I think based on that walk, I got even more excited about what was coming, and also what a company like Conversica could do, or any of our peers in the space applying new generative AI type of technologies. And I think for those that are interested, the fun soundbite around this is kind of the early 2010 kind of time frame. In that time frame, there was a group called Google Brain, and they had some initial success demonstrating how they could use large scale deep neural networks. And for those geeks, it's an analytic algorithm that does some amazing things in prediction, but not applied at massive scale. And this group figured out how to apply it at massive scale, specifically playing with YouTube videos for all things. Well, that led to a breakthrough. And that breakthrough was 2017, where they came up with what's now referred to as the transformer model. So Google, like many of the web scale companies here in Silicon Valley, they come up with magic and then they write about it or even open it up as open source and let the world take it and run with it. And Google's Pathways language model, or PaLM, now Gemini, was officially unveiled in 2022, 5 years after this breakthrough. So you can imagine the amount of innovation that occurred during that time frame. And here I come in 2019, 2 years after that invention, and learn about it through this walk with the CTO responsible for it. And that's when I realized, oh my God, I've got to be in this. Because if I'm on the sidelines and somebody else has fun doing this as a CEO, I'm going to be really bummed. So yeah, I jumped in then, and a lot's taken off since.
Absolutely. And I touched upon it at the top. We know that AI and bots, I've seen reports recently, something like a 90% acceptance rate among consumers in the global customer engagement report from Vonage, for example, that they're like, yeah, it's part of how I communicate. It's part of what I do. So that's very cool. But now it's not just about utility. Bots are going to be developing or already developing personalities. These aren't random traits, right? So they are engineered, they are integrated. Can you maybe start by elaborating? Because it was your point, Jim, when we first spoke, and where you got me very excited about how personality development is being engineered.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit of a student of personality in terms of just leadership and being a CEO. You think about this all the time. The teams are what make things successful, not the technology or the markets that you're playing in most of the time. When I think about personalities, I do think about the consumer and where they're coming from when they are in the digital world engaging with brands. And you got to couple that with, well, where they are in the time of day. Are they dropping off the kids? Did they have a bad day at work? Are they in a growth period? Are they in a flat down, period when they're engaging with you? And these are things that the humans have a hard time picking up. We're kind of, let's call it 85 to 90% accurate in really understanding people by just talking to them and reading their body language. If you just talk to them digitally, you can't read the body language. So it's hard, for us. And now when you think about this, AI capability, you have so much more data at your fingertips. You can literally, I think, come to the table understanding the general population and the various segment types. And then, of course, pick up on the nuances of the person that you're engaged with much more quickly based on that broader data. And I think for us to think that, humans can be better at this at scale. When I say at scale, I mean companies that have a lot of digital touch is probably pretty unreasonable. So this is where AI, where you can understand, people truly in a scalable way that could really affect the brand experience, in terms of the end user experience with that brand. So it's exciting, and it's extremely possible now. It's not something that we kind of talk about. It is something that people are doing today.
It becomes relatable. We've got bots starting to have attitude. What's the impact on marketing, but also maybe more on customer trust, interaction, everything that makes marketing work?
Yeah, I mean, trust is the key word. I think, it's easy. It's hard to gain trust, and it's easy to lose it. And this is where I think a lot of the marketeers are a bit sensitive to the use of generative AI right now, outside of kind of a co-pilot use case, right? Where you're, as a marketeer, it's just supporting you in terms of what you write, and how you position, and ultimately go to market. So it's really just a resource. But if you turn to a bot experience and you actually give the end consumer customer an opportunity to engage your brand autonomously with an AI, then you have to start thinking about, well, is that AI going to represent me as well as my best employee? And am I going to lose trust, or am I even worse, lose trust and get myself into a legal situation because I did something that was, significantly inappropriate. Marketeers are sensitive to that, and we have been very sensitive to that. Has the technology evolved enough to where you can trust its ability, to capture and maintain the trust of your end consumers? Our answer is, it's just about there now. This is the time. This year, kind of right now, as we're talking, June 2024, I think the technology in the right ways of deploying can be deployed with the biggest brands in the world. You name them, like at the highest regulated brands, like the, let's call it banking, Visa, MasterCard, Amex kind of brands, all the way through healthcare, insurance, and others that are highly regulated. I think now is finally the time to dip the toes in.
And do it directly. Are you in the direct camp?
And do it directly. So
Do it directly.
we're in the position of, all right,
Okay.
let's let the AI engage directly. But here's the caveat.
Mm-hmm.
Your brand has been protected because every word you say, every way you present it in whatever, image or video or podcast, or text, you're careful, right? And so now you ask, how does the AI make sure that I'm using that brand safe content, right? Whether it's text, image, video, or all of the above, maybe even voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do I make sure that the AI is only using what I've blessed? And the answer is that's what you have to do. You have to find technology partners. You have to use the technology in such a way where it is leveraging your brand safe content, and that's what it uses. When you talk about the broader content base, the data that's being used to program these large language models, then you as a brand have to say, well, maybe I'm not so ready for that. I don't want to use the plethora of the World Wide Web and its biases as part of the content that I want to use in this digital employee domain. I want to use just my brand content. And as long as you could do that, then we're at that, that level of safety that I would say, argue, is better than the call center agent, better than, the field marketeers, better than the sales forces, account managers, because humans mess up too. And they're not the
And they have
best in
bad
representing,
days. I
right?
mean, they have some abusive bad days. If I think of some customer service scenarios I've experienced recently where it's like, I'm based in Germany, so they can still hang up on me.
That's right. That's right. So you'll still get those really bad customer service
I've had
experience.
it.
And I think we can program the AI to always be matching your energy, matching your level of happiness, matching your tone, not over-indexing on anything, and literally being really, AI doesn't need a coffee break. It doesn't have a bad day. It didn't trip over the dog down the stairs on the way to work. It's going to be your best employee based on how you program it. And so, back to program it with, relevant brand information and leave it to that. And then tell it, hey, my brand might be, having, pull on different traits. And I want my traits to be mirrored. My brand voice needs to be included at all touch points. So if you're, for example, if you're Coca-Cola and your brand voice is friendly and inclusive and optimistic, that's what you want your digital, persona to mirror. And when you do that, it will be mirroring those brand traits consistently, instantly, repetitively, on message, in a way that you can't guarantee with the human workforce for sure.
So it's effective, it's efficient, never has a bad day. Don't we wish that was possible for us as people? But the real magic happens when marketing creates emotional connection. Read about it, hear about it all the time. That's what a brand is. What's the potential of AI to establish emotional connections similar to what we experience with, our iconic brands, not just the trustworthy ones? I can see the banks. I can see that explaining very complex products, but what about sparking joy?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that's where you do need to lean in a little bit on the broader large language model kind of history of English language, French, German, et cetera, and take that localized view of what is appropriate and also, capable in really lifting up the end consumer, prospect, or existing customer. So you start to dip into a little bit of that large language model community of data to pull that and say, okay, I'm allowing some of that to come in. And there are plenty of examples of how you might speak to someone when they're sad, how to speak to someone to get them to laugh a little bit, based on the cultural, nuances of each region that you operate in. And this is where, we look at, like Conversica, we've got our own brand voice and scoring system, right? We look at tone and personality. Our brand voice is about our AI being powerfully human. I think our language and style, we try to be professional, but yet approachable. We try to avoid technical jargon. We do like to engage our audience, with a kind of strategic or consultative nature. And for us to do that, we leverage AI, right? And I think it's something that, kind of comes pretty powerfully easy when we take a little bit more risk and use kind of OpenAI or Llama 3 as examples, Gemini 1.5, and leverage those large language models. So I think there is a future for the AI to become way more intelligent in terms of how to deal with, particular customers, as brands get a little more comfortable, with the ability of leveraging it. So I think of brands like Adidas versus Nike, and when you analyze those brand types, they like to look, and we kind of look through, maybe the lens of personality types. Nike's brand personality is highly motivational. It's an inspirational brand voice. It appeals to the aspirational and ambitious aspects of its audience's psyche, and it encourages just do it. And I think you can,
exactly.
right? The slogan pushes individuals to break barriers and overcome challenges. So you can actually have your AI take on that, that personality type, and I think, versus you would think, as a common consumer, Nike and Adidas, they have the same personality types, right? No, Adidas actually emphasizes creativity and exclusivity and connection to culture and lifestyle. And they go beyond just sports. They focus on high performance too, but they tend to highlight collaboration with artists and designers and suggest a brand that values both individuality and community. And so, what I just rattle off is a nuance, right? But to a brand marketer, it's their life. And if you can have an AI that literally takes on that persona, which quick answer is you can, powerfully, it can mirror your Adidas and Nike examples, almost to the T in terms of the way it talks, what it suggests. How do you deliver that consistently and really in a way that's meaningful on a per person basis is what we're talking about. That's phenomenally rich.
And very much scale as well, Jim. So it's per person, treating us all as individuals. It's going to be very much voice, as you said, personality. And we're going to talk about some data in a moment, but you bring up a great point, which is this is going to be the core of the company, just like the brand. It's the differentiator. And each needs a unique brand voice in reality, as well as metaphorically, needs to understand the personality of its clients and deliver personalization to its customers. What happens when we all have that? I'm wondering how you, for example, at Conversica, how you ensure that your AI solutions are going to maintain, unique brand voice, because we're all going to be having it soon. And when everyone has the same tool or tool set, it can be very, very much the same.
So that is the point that I think every listener wants to hear, because it means the human never goes away, right? The marketeer's job is still extremely relevant, right? We're just using a tool to gain better one-to-one personalization. But ultimately, when everybody has that capability, it's still going to be the marketeer's strategy and go to market and how to leverage that's going to make their use more impactful than their peers that are competing with them. We've spent a lot of energy on the human archetype, that defines our brand, the factual quality of their attributes of my brand, personality traits, the promise, the core principles of, what we deliver. And then we look for emotional triggers, right? Levers to engage our customers. And the easy part is the language and tone, you know, but everything I just rattled off is not easy. And I think it really comes down to every marketing team has a really big challenge in terms of defining why their brand is important over others, how they're different, and then, you know, what it is that they're actually selling, you know, ultimately. And then kind of using that, which is differentiating in the realm of applied AI.
How about the way you compete? Because I think it's fascinating, Jim, your interest in Myers-Briggs type indicators and thinking and understanding personality. And to me, it seems as if understanding personality types that influences the design and functionality of effective solutions and maybe at the core of what you do at Conversica as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, you need to understand your customer down to a group that makes the most sense. It could be a group of one, which is marketing one to one, or it could be, you know, a segment that's larger in a population, you know, in an interest group of particular products, what have you. And I think that job of really segmenting and understanding your customers doesn't change. For marketers, that means customer data platforms, CDPs, you know, and data warehouses and single view of customer with lots of data. Once you produce your segments and your appreciation of your customers in a mature way, you can add AI in terms of a data source. The exchange that the AI has at scale with your customers will tease out even more. And you can introduce that engagement data as part of your segmentation analysis and even segment further, which I think is really interesting because it's real. And then you can use the AI to automatically respond based on the segment that you are profiled into. I think the key thing is that you can quickly put somebody into a realistic segment and then have a campaign that's specific to that segment. And you can do that in real time because now everything has to be in the moment because people are buying based on what's happening right now, not necessarily months away. And so, you know, AI has this benefit of working with individuals, and it has a benefit of reacting in real time. It has the benefit of having data at its fingertips beyond any human's capacity to analyze and react. And I think we finally got to a point, and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, you know, where my AI can be the best customer service agent. It can be the best salesperson. It can be the best field marketer.
I'm thinking that through with you, Jim, because exactly that, you know, we talk about the importance of first party data or understanding your customer. And here, and we know that the best data, particularly in a privacy first world, is understanding how I behave, how I react, and trying to predict based on that. And this brings another layer to that because it's how I'm interacting with the AI. And that's again feeding into all the data about my behavior. And that allows then constant improvement, constant evolution, constant adaptation. That's what I'm hearing here. So it's going to be very, very important data and interaction to have.
It is, and I think you're touching on something that the end consumer is going to continue to want to have control over, and that's their data, their privacy, you know, ability to say no. And so it's going to be really hard for some people to know whether the AI is out to talk to them in a healthy and do good way versus try to extract value from them in a, you know, do evil way. And that's, frankly, in the world of regulations, the world of certifications, you know, security in general, you have to cover for the bad use cases, unfortunately, which does tend to slow down the adoption of good use cases. And so determining the level of risk that an AI technology could pose to the health and safety or fundamental rights of a person is really important.
So you obviously work with a number of brands out there. And you've got me very interested. It's like, yes, I'm coming next too. You can get everyone to listen to our podcast, Jim. But seriously, um, delve a little bit deeper into the use cases, maybe also with some companies that you're working with and how they're using it.
Yeah, I'm going to rattle off some names that will probably surprise you in terms of, brands that you would think would be conservative, right? In the sense of applied AI. Um, Technology loves to consume technology. So if we think about technology brands, it'd be like Oracle, ServiceNow, Zoom, Cisco, HP. Okay, that's pretty impressive, right? Telecom, AT&T, T-Mobile, as an example. Manufacturing, Epson, Rockwell, and the list goes on. Business services could be S&P Poor's. Sports, I could name off 50 sports teams, across 10 leagues. Education, health and wellness. There's a big brand in every vertical that is adopting today and applying today. So what are they applying? These are folks that are looking at, I'll say, a maturity of use cases. And I'm going to talk about kind of like the first place to start all the way to you're consuming practically everything. The first place to start is you're a big brand. You have a lot of inbound. You're a marketeer. You've got a lot of digital, high quality leads coming in, mixed in with a lot of low quality leads. So the first thing you're thinking about with AI is to automate prompt follow up. Anything inbound, instantly followed up. Qualifying, improving the quality of those leads before you hand them off to the sales team, for example. Conversationally nurturing those inbounds. And really, the kind of like mind-blowing concept is no lead is left behind. Nothing is left behind. And that's what a marketeer dreams about, drools about. So that's kind of the place to start, right? And I think the use cases beyond that, then you can start thinking about high volume outbound, right? Cold to warm accounts, that have engaged but never really made it. Those that you're targeting that you've never really got interested, and in the same kind of outbound or the event promotions, like I just mentioned, driving people to events and following up afterwards. And then there's kind of this segment of use cases where you're winning back old customers. And that's an outbound attempt too, right? You know who you lost. You're going to see if you can win them back. Those outbound use cases are hard. I mean, these are where human teams just grind, right? And I think when you think about using AI automation, it's like a natural, right? It's like, poof, yeah, why wouldn't I use AI if it can truly outbound and talk like my best employee? And again, the answer is it can. And then the third kind of stage of maturity in my mind is that's all trying to drive inbound and outbound, trying to drive pipeline and ultimately sales, right? With new accounts. Let's talk about existing accounts. So expansion is a huge opportunity for these brands that I named a few. And thinking about upselling and cross-selling with your AI, the AI is going to your customer base and saying, well, what about this? And what about that? Also renewing for customers that have business models where, you're in a perpetual renewal kind of business model. You want your AI to get out ahead of renewal periods and make sure that you're touching customers early. And then there's adoption. If adoption drops, AI can be programmed to reach out and engage customers that are dropping in consumption. And why? What's going on? How do I help? These are things that slip through account managers' fingers because they have too much to focus on. And so a lot of customers get unaddressed. And then I think the final and best, for last is your brand, creating those advocates, so you're driving further health into accounts that you already have. You're getting maybe onboarding brand new to expanded products. You can use the AI to onboard. You can even use the AI, to get referrals, for other customers. You can use AI to run your NPS surveys, for example. I mean, there's just so many things you can do to kind of, I'll say, kind of shore up your gross retention, which I think a lot of peer CEOs, are mindful of right now.
I'm thinking of all these use cases. Some I wasn't thinking of, but now it's dawning on me. It's like, absolutely, because you'll see the pre indicators like, oh, not using the service very much. That's the sign that I might not resubscribe, drop out altogether, what have you, just plain churn. And some creativity. Wouldn't it be great rather than these needy emails that are sort of annoying where it's like, oh, you're going away. We're going to miss you. It's like, that's not the way to win me back.
No,
That just
no.
sounds
And
sort
that's
of
all, those
like,
are all canned, one
yeah.
way, mass, kind of outbound, and it just kind of triggers a thought right now where top of funnel is really important for marketeers. And marketing automation is, the place where people do spend time and energy rightfully. And there's a lot you can do, whether it's Salesforce Marketing Cloud or Aloka or Marketo or HubSpot Marketing, Microsoft Marketing. All of these platforms are being used to talk at your customers, at them in the same way that they talk to you. They're talking to the next person down the street, across the state, in a different country, because it's a one-way conversation. So this is a first for people to take marketing automation and add AI and have a conversation with, not at, but with the customer, and where you're doing a two-way dialogue and it's personalized.
And it is truly there because I just finished last year, actually. I wrote a conversational marketing and engagement playbook in close collaboration with Vonage. So popular. Guess what? I'm working on the second edition and now taking it global. So looking at how global brands are using this and using the concept. So we are looking at having a conversation, even if we're not selling, we still want a conversation. Because I was talking to brands, it's like, well, we're not really selling anything. This is just part of our persona. And that's demand for conversational commerce, conversational marketing, conversational engagement. And you have a report as well where you're seeing the data that says, guess what? This has arrived. This is full force. One of the points in your report, in your survey, and we'll have that in the show notes as well, hey, check it out. 89%, vast majority is the stat that stood out in my mind. 89% of marketing executives saw a direct revenue increase from AI-driven initiatives last year. And in addition, are planning to, no surprise, increase investment in AI tools. Maybe you can unpack this a little bit, maybe expand on the types of strategies you were seeing that are most effective, or for that matter, what is driving confidence? What is driving this interest?
Yeah, I mean, for our world, again, I'll caveat, we're a bit, focused on revenue. So it is different, clearly, from engaging the brand from more of a customer support angle, which is where AI was born. But for us, those 89% of AI-driven initiatives, we like to unpack that even further and look at, how many are using AI for inbound follow-up, for outbound lead generation. And those are 95 and 92% respectively, which makes me smile, because that's where, I kind of recommend, people, starting. And I think, a big significant amount of these marketing executives feel like, and they have to, see the greatest potential impact in the funnel, but, they want to see it in the middle of the funnel, right? Where lead nurture and qualification is the top of their list in terms of use cases. We're really trying to get customers to transact, and buy. And I love conversational commerce. And I do think the concierge is a real future, where it's not just some crappy chat experience where it's just got a decision tree of potential if then say this. It is interactive. And you have brand ambassadors, essentially. You have checkout concierges. You have fulfillment assistants. You have customer success agents, all of them AI enabled, who can create interest, guide interest, help you ultimately check out with your interest and deliver and repurchase. And so for me, I'm obviously drinking the Kool-Aid, Peggy, but I see the technology where it is everything we need it to be at this point. Now it's just really, truly applying it in the way that's meaningful for these brands that are operating at scale.
Maybe an odd question, but I can't resist asking it because everything changes, everything moves. That's what makes this market so exciting. What strategies, if any, are there to future proof marketing efforts in a fast evolving AI landscape? You want to jump in there, but you also want to stay ahead of the curve and benefit from AI innovations. Any thoughts there, Jim?
Strategies to future proof. My quick answer for marketeers, in terms of dipping your toe versus diving in, is going to really be a function of A/B testing. I think future proofing for me is all about being data driven, and literally kind of take my old campaign approach and compare it to my AI enabled campaign approach, right? You do the same thing with every technology that's introduced. You're kind of taking the old way you've done it and compare it to the new way. For some, they just jump right in, right? And I think that's when the market's a little more mature. The technology choices, are obvious. And, you're on the bandwagon as an early majority or kind of, matured, fast follower. And I think, but for me, for those that are kind of in the very beginning, just A/B test, right? If you take take your marketing automation campaigns today before and look at, after. And I think, I'll just give you some ideas of what that might look like. Some sound bites that I think are actually compelling to think about, the before and after. And I would expect others to see this, no matter what vertical you're in. And so most marketing automation campaigns, you're looking at open rates and click-through rates, engagement rates, and ultimately whatever your call to action is, your outcome rates, right? We look at benchmarks in the industry, of AI. We're looking at all these particular verticals and use case and customer products and services and try to generalize across all of them, right? So we look at kind of an average open rate of 38%, click-through rate of 1.3%, an engagement rate that's similar, 1.3%, an outcome rate that's less than 1%, it's down in the third of a percent. So those are benchmarks that, name your source, you'll have your version of it. And when you do that versus with AI, we get to a point where, we're covering every lead. So we've got lead follow-up that's 100%. Our open rates, because the AI is very capable of changing up for every customer, we get an 80% open rate. We get a 19% click-through rate. Our engagement rates are over 23%. And we define engagement very differently. We define it in terms of we reached out to somebody and then they responded and had an interaction with the AI. So that's an engagement conversion for us. And we get basically 23.7%. My 12 months training, I'm just looking at my data right now across my entire network, on average is 24%. So it's like, okay, outcome rate, are you ready? 10.6%. So 1 out of 10 or 10 out of 100, is actually, we're seeing the outcomes come to fruition. And that's a 35 times improvement over our benchmark of before. So you're listening to this going, no way. Okay, try it. Try it. I mean, I underwrite it with network data. I've got thousands of customers, billions of interactions. We're super data driven. So, tell us what your volumes are, what use cases, and we'll tell you what the range of conversion will be. And you can decide for yourself and then go A/B test it. And so that's how you future proof. You just dip your foot in the water, A/B test. You like it, consume more.
I don't even want to wrap it up, Jim, but I will. And I wanted to end on your experience, right? And a personal anecdote about something that maybe you learned while working with AI and a surprise. Sometimes I remember a dear friend of mine, Rory Sutherland over at Ogilvy, and he was always surprised by how big problems don't need sort of massive complex solutions. Sometimes it's small things that make a big difference, just as a thought. So it's sometimes just refocusing. So it might be that there was just a little tweak in something that the AI was doing or was saying or thinking that just had a massive impact. Or maybe it's just a lesson of like a do or a don't, something where even you, as a seasoned professional, Jim, you were surprised, something that blew your mind. What would it be?
Well, I think it's a broad question. I'm a geek at heart. So I started as an engineer before I became a CEO in 1999. But prior to my kind of jumping to the dark side of business, I was responsible for a whole suite of AI products back in the 90s. Okay, so I've got a long history of this technology. And what blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind, is the scale at which this is being deployed today, and its ability to really, no, it's not going to become Skynet in terms of it taking over the world and killing off the human race. But it is operating at a scale that's both parallel in terms of its applicability across cloud and its ability to understand relationships between information it's consuming, aka what your customers are telling it, at a level that I've never seen before. And I've been in this since the early 90s, so I do have a lot of experience, as many in the data science world have too. And this is really just oh my God, Google, thank you for having this major breakthrough. OpenAI to taking it to a commercial level that really pushes the world. Microsoft for making massive investments to furthering it. And now everybody really kind of supercharging it. So this is a technology that will become like the mobile phone. It's just in everything, everywhere. I'm rambling, but it's just amazing. It's an absolutely amazing time for sure.
But you're opening our eyes to what that could be. And you're going to be one of them shaping it, Jim. I am sure of that. That's why I found you, and I won't let go. I will be back because I think we have a lot more to discuss, actually. And I think a good time to do it is next year to see if you were on the mark with what you're thinking, what you're seeing, where you think AI will be impacting next. Is it a deal?
Sounds like a deal. Thank you for having me, Peggy. I really appreciate it.
I want to let you go, but I think our audience would also want to know a little bit more about where to find you, follow you, what matters. They're all excited now and they want to keep up with you. And Conversica, what's the best way?
Conversica.com. We're all digital. Just come to the website and you will be able to find us for sure. It's simple as that. Thank you, Peggy.
Do you have time to blog and write and share, Jim, or are you too busy shaping?
Too busy shaping right now, but maybe I need to reconsider.
Yeah. Feel a book coming, particularly The Walk with the CTO of Google. I think that's the first chapter, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
It is. It is. Well, closing that chapter and closing off this episode, I want to thank you again so much, Jim. And I'll be back. What can I say? You will be back. We will be back. Thanks again.
Thanks again, Peggy. Cheers.
And of course, if you're tuning into In the Groove on YouTube, well, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. It will allow you to stay up to date with the series. And not only that, enjoy the pure gold of knowledge and insights our guests bring to every episode.